While the narrative differs from side to side, the metopes which wrap around the four sides of the Parthenon are bound by a common theme, us versus them. That is, the triumph of civilization over barbarism, a theme familiar to the Athenians who believed themselves and their achievements to be superior to other cultures of their time. This theme is developed through mythology and allegories to history. Memory of the Persian War is not preserved through concrete reference or fact, but symbolically through myth, connecting Persians with negative mythological scenes while simultaneously depicting defeated and dying Greeks, speaking to the formidable qualities of their opponents to lend further weight to the Greek victory. The Parthenon was completed in 432, just before the start of the Peloponnesian War. The monument involved in its intentions throughout its building, conceived as a dedication or home to Athena, and a testament to victory over the Persians, it took on a further significance as Athens became an imperialist empire over the course of the 5th century BC. Financed by imperialist efforts of the Delian League, Athens sacked cities and captured women and children. They systematically subjugated several cities that revolted against them. The complex interplay between democracy, empire, civic pride, and wartime violence is vital in understanding the Parthenon metopes. The Gigantomachy depicts the mythical battle of the Olympian gods versus the giants. The Olympians overthrew the giants and established themselves as the new rulers. It is a demonstration of triumph over the old ways and places emphasis on the power of the gods. Compositionally, there is a clear progression from the sides to the center. Attention is focused on the four central slabs. Severe damage makes identification difficult. The general theme is agreed upon and some specific identities can be determined. Figures are identified with the help of mythological, literary, and iconographical sources. Adolf Michaelis proposes that the character on East 2 could be Dionysus, identified by the panther and snake, attacking a giant through comparison to Athenian vases from the 5th century BC, the Sisyphean treasury, and the Pergamon altar. Prashnaker identifies Helios on Metope 14, a being in a chariot emerges from the sea, indicated by the fish on the chariot wheel. It is not Poseidon, as Poseidon appears on Metope 6. Additionally, it is unlikely that Poseidon would be shown without his trident. Helios' presence is an allusion to the sunrise of the day when the Gigantomachy took place. If this interpretation is correct, Selene should be found at the other end of the East Metopes. Apollodorus states that Zeus forbade Eos and Selene and Helios to shine until he had secured assured victory for the gods of Olympus. On Metope 14, the annihilation of the giants has already begun. The Greeks are speaking to contemporary war and recent history using mythology. In the story, the Olympians overthrow the giants and subsequently the old religion and way of life, and establish themselves as the new rulers. In this battle, the gods could only win with the aid of a mortal, Hercules. Gigantomachy scenes symbolize the cosmic struggle between order and chaos. The warlike theme of civilized Greeks versus barbaric outsiders, as an extension of the Persian War, is clear. The East Metopes of the Parthenon further emphasizes the triumph of Athenian justice and law. The scene can be read as a metaphor for the success of the Athenian city-state. The South Metopes furthers the Parthenon's purpose as a demonstration of civic pride and power. The West Metopes were the ones that visitors to the Acropolis saw first. The choice of their theme was therefore essential. The most common interpretation is that it was the Amazonamachy, most probably the Athenian episode of these battles between the Greeks and the warrior women. 2 frescoes representing the Amazonamachy already existed in Athens at the time, and they likely served as inspiration to artists for the metopes of the Parthenon. Unlike the other metopes, there is no narrative progression. Each metope sits independently. 14 metopes on the west side depict the struggle between Athenian youths and their king Theseus against the Amazons. The Amazons were a mythical tribe of women warriors from the Black Sea. Due to the kidnapping of their queen Antiope by Theseus, they invaded Athens. Regular alternating metopes that either depict a mounted Amazon that defeats her enemy on the ground or 2 unmounted fighting opponents. All men are depicted naked, and the women are clothed. Nakedness was a symbol of control and civilization for the Greeks. Therefore, Amazons are portrayed as a savage and barbaric race. The Amazonamachy is a symbol of Greek civility as superior to all other ways of life. The norms of society must be upheld to remain separated from the barbarous other. Approximately half of the metopes depict an Amazonian attacking a fallen Greek soldier, indicating the even odds and hard-won victory by the Greeks. This was not an easy battle. Amazons often represent a form of feminism in Greek culture. Either the Greek hero rids his country of a monster, or it serves as an extension of the Attis motif, where the hero rejects human sexuality in marriage and procreation. The Amazonamachy holds the primary theme of Athenian ideal civility and the role of women within that. The Amazonomachy was a quintessential depiction of the antithesis of women in Greek society, deviant and aggressive women outside the home. In this story, the warning is for women to know their place and role, or bad things will happen. However, the subject remains controversial, largely because of the poor condition of the sculpture. Brahma reserves the possibility that the Easterners may be the Persians. The argument has centered on the clothes of the opponents of the Greeks. Amazons are usually represented wearing a short chiton with open shoulders, but here some wear chlamys, a hat, boots, and a shield. On the other hand, these opponents of the Greeks do not wear the trousers characteristic of the representations of the Persians. The Greeks, meanwhile, are naked. Whatever the hypothesis adopted, for the Athenian citizen or the foreign visitor, the obvious interpretation of this Western setting was the failure of the invasion of Attica by the Persian army during the Persian War. The North Metopes depict the fall of Troy to the allied armies of the Greeks. The reason for this war was the abduction of Helen, the wife of the Spartan king Menelaus, by Paris, prince of Troy. The besiegement of Troy lasted 10 years. Just as Menelaus and Helen's vows are renewed in North 24 and 25, 31 and 32 possibly depicts the marriage renewal of Zeus and Hera. The presence of Hebe represents marriage and renewal. This continues the theme of marriage equating to peace and the breakup of marriage to disaster. Adolf Michaelis presents a different reading of the panels. His theory states that the warrior on the right side of North 24 is Menelaus, chasing Helen depicted in North 25. Aphrodite is identified on the left. The two female figures are framed by Eros on the left and a statue of Athena on the right. According to mythology, the goddess sent her winged son to Menelaus with the aim to change the king's anger into love, and this way save Helen. The decipherment of this particular scene was fundamental for the identification of the overall subject of the Metopes on the north side of the Parthenon. The interpretation that he suggests is that the north side could depict the capture of Troy. This would offer a logical continuation to the Amazonomachy on the north side. The two battles are symbolically linked. It is a mythological reminder that the Amazons had chosen the Trojan camp. This complicates the reading of the ship in North 2. Is it launching or mooring? If read from left to right, or east to west, it depicts the arrival of the Greeks and the taking of Troy. If read to right to left, as visitors to the Acropolis read them, they read as the fall of Troy and the departure of the Greeks. Metope North 1 displays a very damaged human figure, a chariot, and a horse's body without a head. The deity aboard the chariot is identified as Nyx, Eos, Selene, or Athena for proponents of arrival of the Achaeans in Troy. For proponents of the departure of the Greeks, it is Ilios or Emera. Severe damage has made the identification of figures and subjects difficult. Because of this, it has been hard to be certain about the theme of the North Metopes. While the most popular interpretation is a celebration of the Greek victory over the Trojans, there is debate whether the Athenians are celebrating or condemning the Achaeans. Athenians are not categorically a part of the Achaean tradition and cannot be equated to the Greeks of the Iliad. While Athenian participation in the Trojan War is tenuous, there have been efforts made by Athenians to strengthen these ties, particularly in monumental art. It is theorized that the Athenians are a later addition to the story of the fall of Troy. Athenians have been accused in antiquity of forging their place within the Iliad. Athenians themselves do not doubt their place in the tradition. While works such as the North Metopes of the Parthenon might be seen as celebrating the Athenian role in the Trojan War, Ferrari's analysis of the Parthenon Metopes suggests that in the aftermath of the Persian sack of Athens in 480, Athenians may have identified more with the Trojans than with the Achaeans. This has caused debate on the true theme of the North Metopes. The sack of Troy on the Parthenon is represented as hubristic and unjustified. This resonates with the Athenian literature and art, wherein which the fall of Troy and the many atrocities which were committed were a great sacrilege on the part of the Achaeans. Ferrari maintains that the purpose of depicting the sack of Troy in the 5th century BC was not to praise Athenians, but to blame Achaeans. Included in the North Metopes is the leading away of Polyxena, the recovery of Helen and the rescue of Ephyra by Acamas and Demophon, and Aeneas' escape with Ascanius. This supposed council of gods seen at the end of the narrative may represent the moment where the gods plan the destruction of the Achaeans on their voyage home as punishment for the brutalities committed. In interpreting the North Metopes, it is important to consider the historical context. The Athenians retreated to Salamis in 480, and the Persians swept Attica, burning the Acropolis. The Parthenon was not only a necessary rebuilding, but an Athenian testament to their survival, the resilience of their city-state under devastation, and an ultimate victory over oppression. The Athenians understood the act of sacking a city is emblematic of hubris and sacrilege. The South Metopes feature the Centauromachy as a continuation of the us versus them metaphor, the clash between the educated and advanced, and the crude and savage. While drunk, the centaurs attempted to carry off the Lapith women while attending the wedding feast of King Pirithous. The 9 central metopes display a different subject which cannot be easily interpreted. Some scholars connect with mythology, but it is generally accepted that they depict scenes of the marriage from inside the palace of Pirithous in Thessaly. In South Metope 28, a centaur cuts a violent figure across the image. The left arm is raised in a dominant gesture, and the tail swings triumphantly. Positioned on its hind legs, he is moments away from crushing the victim beneath him. By contrast, the Greek's knees, and perhaps his arms, arc upwards in a futile attempt to stop the assault. 1/3 of the metopes on the south side of the Parthenon take on similar imagery, that of man's defeat at the hands of the barbaric other. These metopes, alongside the Amazonomachy, focus on the price of victory and the resilience of the Greeks. Centaurs is seen as a violent and brutish race. The Lapiths are a law-abiding civilization. The story of an interrupted marriage serves as a metaphor for the struggle between civility and barbarism and is directly related to the Greek and Persian conflict. Victory over the centaurs is referencing victory over the barbaric Persians. The centaurs represent the emotional and violent elements of humanity, while the Greeks are calm and stoic. They demonstrate keeping control over oneself. The belief is that these values of severity and rationality are what make Athenian society superior, and it is why they prevailed where outsiders have not. On southern Metope 6, an old man centaur on the right is opposed to a young Lapith wearing a cloak. On the drawing attributed to Carey, the Lapith gives a blow with the right fist to the centaur. The composition is unimaginative. It seems that the sculptor has given more consideration on the difference of age than on the action. Age plays an important role in Greek representation. The ideal male form is young and athletic. Again, the outsiders are depicted as the antithesis to the Greeks, reinforcing the divide between us and them. South 13 to South 25 are known only from the drawings attributed to Carey. Some fragments have been found allowing reconstitution. As these metopes do not represent only Lapith-centaur duels, various other interpretations have been proposed, sometimes without any connection with the episode of marriage of Pirithous. Eric Pernice and Franz Stolznicka suggest the myth of Erythonios and the creation of the cult statue of Athena Polias. Charles Pickard shares the opinion that this is the same myth of Erythonios, but he rather suggests the creation of Panathenaea. Erica Simon sees the story of another Lapith, Exion, the father of Pirithous. Martin Robinson prefers the myth of Daedalus, with traveling geographical locations. South 13 to 16 in Athens, South 17 and 18 in Knossos, and return to Athens for South 19 to 21. Burkhard Fair wants to read the opposition between the good wife, Alceste, and the bad wife, Phaedrus. According to Hildur Westervelt in her thesis defended at Harvard in 2004, this might not be a punctual event, but an account of the entire marriage of Hippodamia and Pirithous. In the center is represented the moment where at the wedding the bride leaves the paternal house for that of her husband. The procession would then be disturbed by centaurs already drunk. The fight then extends to the other metopes. Theories center around the centaurs breaking the sacred laws of hospitality at a Lapith wedding, an act of barbarism to the Greeks. The Parthenon embodied that highly sought-after ideal representation of perfection and power. There are no ancient descriptions of the metopes that could give a definitive interpretation, but ideas of civility, normative behavior of women, and strength as facets of ideal Athenian society are evident. There is an underlying theme of marriage and the breakup of that union resulting in chaos. Marriages between citizens and daughters of citizens is a foundation for the civic values that are celebrated. Ideas of an ideal society are embedded into the themes of the metopes. Some scholars believe that in most 5th century Greek art, the Persians were shown allegorically, through the centaurs and the Amazons. The theme of the 92 metopes is warlike. In contrast to the pediments and frieze, the focus is on the opposition between order and chaos, human and animal, civilization and barbarianism, and even the East and the West. Alongside war and barbarianism is an acknowledgement of human loss and sacrifice to Greek ideals. Seen in the Centauromachy and the Amazonomachy especially, the Greeks beat worthy opponents. This is a testament to their strength. Holistically, the Parthenon metopes maintains an us versus them narrative.